Let me ask you something. What would you do if your neighborhood HOA decided they could use your private property like it was theirs? No notice, no discussion, no permission. Just one day, you look out your back window, and there are construction workers with heavy equipment tearing into your land. You might think that's crazy, that it's illegal, that surely no HOA would be that bold. They would. And they did. This is the story of how my HOA took a chunk of my backyard for their little beautification project, and how I used one well-timed, ironclad document to make them pay for every inch of it. It started out subtle. I was doing some yard work one Saturday when I noticed a few bright orange survey flags staked into the ground about 15 feet behind my fence line. Now, I live at the edge of the neighborhood, and my property backs up to a narrow strip of green space that borders a walking trail. So I figured, okay, maybe the city's doing utility work. But a few days later, those little flags multiplied. Then the ground was marked with spray paint. Then the rumbling started. Bulldozers, trucks, cement mixers, coming through the side access road and straight into that narrow green space, and onto my property. The next morning, I step out to get the mail, and I notice a freshly dug trench running directly along my backyard. There's a small concrete form going in. A few workers are hauling bags of pavers. They're installing benches. Benches. So I walk over and ask one of the guys, "Hey, what's going on here?" "HOA project. We're putting in a walking path and community seating area. It's gonna be nice." I ask him, "Did they say this land was part of the HOA?" He shrugs and says, "I don't know, man. We're just following the flags." I go back inside, confused. That night, I email the HOA. I keep it civil and polite. "Hey, I noticed some construction behind my fence. That portion of land is included in my deed. Could someone from the board clarify?" 2 days later, I get a response. It's copy-paste icky boilerplate nonsense. The area in question has always been considered part of the HOA-maintained Greenbelt. Our development map outlines this as common area. They even included a blurry, outdated PDF sketch, no scale, no measurements, just a diagram from the early 2000s. But here's the thing. I'd done my homework. When I bought this house 3 years ago, I requested a full plat map from the county and had a professional survey done. I knew exactly where my property lines were. And so did they, if they had bothered to check. I replied and said, "According to my deed and official survey, that portion is private property. I can provide documentation." Their reply? "We suggest reviewing your documents again. Our records are very clear. This is not a private lot." In other words, you're wrong. Stop asking questions. I don't know if they thought I was just some clueless homeowner or if they were really that confident. But that's when I knew this wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. They were going to claim it as common space and hope I wouldn't push back. They were wrong. Most people would have raised hell right there. Posted on the community forum. Called the city. Maybe even filed a police report. But I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath, opened a folder on my computer, and pulled up a scanned copy of my property survey and deed. Then I emailed my real estate attorney and said, "Keep this on file. I think I'm about to set a trap." Because if they wanted to act like this land wasn't mine, I was going to let them prove it in the best possible way. On paper and on camera. They wanted to build? Let them build. Because the more they added, the worse it would be for them later. Every bench, every paver, every dollar spent would work in my favor. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more HOA horror tales and petty revenge done right. The HOA thought they were expanding their community space. But what they were really doing was walking right into legal quicksand. By week 2, the project was well underway. They'd carved out a narrow trail lined with decorative bricks, poured a concrete base for a curved bench, installed solar lights, planted shrubs, even rolled out mulch. Then came the kicker. A big, shiny wooden sign appeared, bolted directly into the ground right where my property line sat. HOA Community Reflection Spot. For residents only, no pets allowed. I nearly choked laughing. I took pictures from every angle. Date stamped. With GPS metadata turned on. They just branded my private property as their own. Now, here's the thing about playing the long game. You have to keep your cool. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't post angry rants online. I didn't even mow the grass near the trail. I wanted them to feel comfortable, because I wanted as much material evidence as possible before I made my move. So I recorded emails from the board, construction updates posted in the HOA newsletter, screenshots of the project shared in the community Facebook group with captions like, "So proud of our HOA board for enhancing our neighborhood." Every photo, every comment, every document was building my case. And the best part? They were doing all the work for me. Meanwhile, I met with my attorney again. She went through my deed, survey, property lines, and the local zoning code. Her conclusion was simple and clear. They're trespassing unlawfully, and if they don't remove the structure voluntarily, we can sue. Now, I had two options. 1. Serve them immediately and make them tear it all down. 2. Let them finish, then send a civil demand letter so strong it'd rattle the boardroom. Guess which one I picked? That's right, option 2. I told her, let them plant one more tree. I want them to make it pretty before I take it away. By week 4, the trail was complete. They hosted a little ribbon-cutting event. Yes, seriously, with lemonade and cookies. Board members gave speeches. People clapped. Neighbors took photos and posted, "Look how nice this turned out." I stood back with my phone recording, just outside the fence, with the biggest smile on my face, because none of them realized. They just gifted me a legal silver platter. 3 days later, we sent the HOA board a certified legal notice. In summary, it read, "This notice is to inform you that your recent construction project lies entirely on private property owned by my full name. You are in violation of civil trespass laws and subject to full liability for damages and legal costs. You are hereby required to remove all unauthorized structures and restore the land to its original condition within 30 days. Failure to comply will result in a lawsuit seeking financial compensation, legal fees, and injunctive relief." Included in the package were my legal deed and survey, a before and after photos of the construction, HOA emails admitting they believed it was their land, a community post promoting the new HOA trail. We even added a line that said, "Any continued use of this land by HOA members will be considered ongoing trespass and subject to additional penalties." They panicked. Within 48 hours, I received a reply from the HOA lawyer, a phone call from the board president, and an emergency notice about a closed session HOA meeting. The board president emailed me personally, writing, "We believe there has been a misunderstanding. Could we meet to discuss options?" My reply? Just one line. I prefer we keep communication through attorneys at this point. Because they weren't dealing with a passive homeowner anymore. They were dealing with someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Let's just say, the HOA's walking path didn't last very long, but my leverage did. This wasn't just about a walking trail, or a few benches, or a sign the HOA stuck into the dirt like they owned the place. It was about entitlement, arrogance, and the belief that one small homeowner would just roll over when the big bad HOA decided to take what wasn't theirs. Spoiler alert, I didn't roll over. I rolled legal thunder straight across their fancy little path. And when the dust settled, the only thing they had left was a massive bill and a red-faced board president who resigned in silence. Let me walk you through exactly how I forced the HOA to undo every inch of their beautification project, and how I ended up with leverage that lasted long after the last paver was pulled. Remember that certified legal notice we sent in earlier? It gave them 30 days to remove all structures, restore the land, acknowledge the boundary line, and do it without further trespassing. The first 7 days? Total silence. Then the HOA lawyer sent back a "we're reviewing" response, basically stalling. By day 14, a couple of orange flags reappeared near the trail. By day 18, I spotted a measuring crew out there, probably hired to double-check their assumptions. And by day 21, I caught a board member trying to dig up one of the solar lights by himself. Like I wouldn't notice. On my land. That footage went straight to my attorney. Day 24. An email from the HOA lawyer landed in my inbox. Here's the short version. Our client is prepared to remove the structures in question. However, they request an extension to avoid public embarrassment. Translation: they knew they were wrong. They just didn't want the rest of the neighborhood to know it. They even offered to send landscapers, cover all costs, and make the area look as natural as possible to preserve community harmony. But that's not how this ends. Not without terms. Here's what I told them. 1. Full written acknowledgement that the land belongs to me, filed with the HOA and publicly shared with residents. 2. A signed agreement that the HOA would never again claim ownership or use of the property without written permission. 3. A formal letter of apology from the board to me and my attorney. And finally, they cover every dime of removal and restoration costs. No shortcuts. They hesitated, so I gave them 2 choices: accept and comply, or we file a lawsuit that drags their budget into the ground and exposes their mistake to every homeowner in the subdivision. They folded. And let me tell you, the day the removal started, I set up a lawn chair on my deck with a cold drink and watched as the benches were unbolted, and the pavers dug up and hauled away, and the sign yanked out and broken in 2. It took them 3 full days. When they were done, my backyard looked exactly how it had before. Except now, everyone knew it was mine. And the HOA? They never spoke of that trail again. The best part? Their lawyer quietly added me to a list of protected private parcels that the HOA wasn't allowed to modify, enter, or include in future planning. They essentially created a no-go zone with my name on it. And word got around fast. At the next HOA annual meeting, the president, the same one who told me our records are very clear, stepped down. No speech. No thanks. Just a red face and a quiet exit. Multiple homeowners approached me afterward and said, "We heard what happened, good for you." I just smiled and said, "I like walking trails. I just like them on land people actually own." If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more HOA horror tales and petty revenge done right. See you in the next one.